What up, Shane?
How you doing, Chef? Good afternoon.
How big are the fish today?
It's a good size one.
Pretty nice size. Still a little bit of rigor. We buy a lot of mackerel.
Oh yeah, you guys kill it.
So the mackerel toast is a dish that looks really simple, but takes 4 or 5 days to create the end product.
And the mackerel at Mabel's probably like the best mackerel I've ever had. You know, mackerel is probably the hardest work fish, you know, even for the chefs too, just because they're small.
But we find the medium to large size mackerel are able to sustain the smoke without getting overcooked. Such a simple dish that, you know, there's really no place to hide. We're not putting a bunch of condiments on it. It's all about the, you know, the fresh fish and the smoke. There we go. Let's call it there.
We like to process them as soon as possible, just to keep the freshness of it. So what he's gonna do is he's gonna basically fillet them off. After he's done filleting, he'll debone them, and then we'll start our curing process, which is a sugar and salt mixture. And then we just serve it with our, you know, Secret Sister country bread, a couple Gardenia peppers, some lemon. That's all you need.
We couldn't open Mabel's without having opened the bakery first. The schedule over at Secret Sister, the bakery, is they start at 3 in the morning, they finish baking around noon, they bring the bread to Mabel's. Meal is about to shape bread for tomorrow. This is the country loaf. This is the first step in our mackerel toast dish that we serve at Mabel's. Gets served on a nice, thick, fresh slice of country loaf.
We obviously do all of our bread here and we sell it at the bakery, and then we use it for Mabel's and the Rose. But what's cool about the mackerel and what I think is special with it too, it's one of the places that the country gets served fresh and not toasted, and so it has to be made day of, and that's really what makes it so good, I think. I don't think it would be the same product if it was on, you know, grilled bread.
So 3 days before the bread gets to the customer, that's when the first ferment starts. 5 days before the fish gets to the customer, that's when the processing of the mackerel starts.
Nachos just finished up a batch, filleted them and V-cut them. V-cut just removes the pin bones from the middle, makes it a little easier to clean after smoking. So he's going to cure them lightly. What we have in this little shaker is equal parts salt and sugar. And then we're gonna let these hang out for a full 24 hours. In the walk-in, the walk-in's going to circulate cold air around them. The salt's gonna pull moisture out. That cool air is gonna pull the moisture off, creating a nice pellicle for the smoke to adhere to. And that's crucial to getting that flavor right.
So all this bread gets shaped the day before, and then it cold proofs overnight in its bannetons, and then we bake it from cold in our deck ovens. So we're just scoring it and we're about to go in. So because of our space too, all of our bread is hand loaded on the boards. We don't have a loader or anything, so it gets a little tricky sometimes, but we have figured it out. And then we double steam it.
24 hours later, so we've cured these last night, and it gives the smoke something to adhere to, which gives it like a nice color, but it also obviously flavor is what we're going after. These will be in the smoker around an hour. Single box, we got about 3 levels in here. We use a softwood, typically fruit. Right now we're using apple wood. So we put that in there, turn this puppy on, it's got a timer on it. Hour later, we'll come back and check it.
So all of our bread that's been baked this morning is gonna get bagged and ready for Mabel's. So when I think about sourdough and a loaf of bread that I really like, I want color on it, I want a good deep crust, and I want it to be soft and chewy on the inside.
Bread delivery usually comes from Secret Sister, right around like 12:30. Neil, after her shift, brings it over to us. Bread stays uncut until closer to service, so we'll just put that away and starting to clean mussels, get that process going. We found the best mussel was Salt Spring mussels. They're super plump and they have like a nice little like orangey reddish hue to them, which is really aesthetically pleasing. But they're larger and they tend to be just have that like real nice toothsome bite, but still remaining tender.
Dan and Ross had worked at the Rose with me before we came over here, and Dan developed that mussel dish, and it's been on the menu since day one.
Yeah, we're gonna throw them on the stove. They'll probably steam for 8 to 10 minutes till they're fully open. We'll save the liquor, and that will be incorporated into our marinade.
The local fisheries here in San Diego were historically really strong, and now it's becoming more and more difficult to be a fisherman in San Diego, so we really wanted to try to do our part to support the industry here and keep it viable. One of the things that we care about here is making sure that we're honoring the product, not manipulating it too much, so that you can still really understand that what you are eating here is extremely fresh, delicious fish.
Help these guys cool off. After that, we'll debeard them, and then we'll marinate it.
What's up, chef? Hey! Got your prawns here. So these are soft shell prawns. So these guys are the ones that have molted this week. And then these guys here, those are your popcorn prawns. Our typical cycle is about 15 weeks. These guys are probably about 7 weeks old. So they're about 7 gram, 8 gram average. And our typical big boys are around 30 gram average.
Steve was talking to him about all the different sizes and ages that he sells, and this one definitely stood out to Dan and I. These are the popcorn king prawns, and we just dredge them in a little rice flour and fry them whole. Dan and I loved eating the heads of prawns, and this way it was like you could just eat the whole thing, and I think it was something new and exciting to our clientele and our guests here at the restaurant. We'll lightly season. We'll hit this with a little sherry vinegar, some fresh lime juice, and then right before we get to go to the plate, some garlic chives. There it is. Now our guy Nacho is starting the next process in the mussels. They've been steamed, cooled slightly. And so what he's doing now is kind of shucking them out of the shell and debearding them. We find that debearding them after they've been cooked, they come out a little cleaner, and there's nothing left residing in the flesh of the mussel themselves. So we're going to marinate these salt spring mussels in. They've been cooked, debearded, and here we have the finished escabeche. It is a combination of like smoked paprika and orange oil, lots of aromatics. That's cooked on low to kind of pull out the natural oils from everything. And then on the bottom is the vinegar and cooking liquid, or mussel liquor, if you will, from the cooking process. These are going to sit for a minimum of 24 hours, but we like to go 48 optimal. All right, it's been a little over an hour. Got a small little batch of freshly smoked mackerel. We do it in small batches, one, so these things can get full smoke, and what we're looking for is some nice color, which we have here, all because we allowed them to cure for 24 hours. So these are smoked perfectly.
So yeah, the mackerel's been butchered, cured, and now we're just gonna clean them up. Take a little bit of the blood line off, take the skin off, and then drop it into our aromatic oil. And nestle them in there.
So for our mussels, grill is sourdough, comes straight off the grill. We rub it with some raw garlic. The camera doesn't lie. I mean, they were nice, they were plump, but they weren't this plump. After they spent the time in the marinade, they just kind of like accept all of that in, and they just plump up really, really nice. Steve brought us these beautiful soft shell jumbos, which are definitely a specialty. You know, the way he harvests them, they're not always available. Sometimes he needs to let them grow. So Chef Dan and I, pre-service, we're just gonna mess around with these, try a couple concepts that we have. Just gonna season them with a little bit of salt here before they hit the grill. We got this like little hot spot in the back, and so we want that char and we want that intense heat. So we're gonna put those right on that hot spot, not let them sit too long. The popcorns we did because it seemed like the perfect kind of like little bar snack to have on our menu. But here you get that added caramelization, that char. We're always looking to innovate, change our menu, excite our cooks and ourselves and our customers for sure. You know, but it's really cool when our favorite purveyors bring us something a little different. You don't get prawns in that mid-molting process when you order frozen prawns or tiger prawns from overseas. So this is super special, and not many people get to work with this. I like to hit them directly with a little bit of citrus. Because as they relax, they're gonna suck that back in, and it's gonna be part of the shrimp. I'm gonna hand them off to Chef Dan.
So we'll probably try these 2 different ways. We'll just do them as is, so we can just taste the flavor. And then I made this a spicy fennel garlic scape condiment that we'll try with. A little fennel pollen, sea salt.
To me, the most important part about this restaurant is that you can trust what we're doing, that we're using quality ingredients, and it's still fun and approachable, and everybody feels welcome here.
What do you think? Menu ready?
I don't think anyone would be mad at it.
Like the shell's there, but it's so not a factor in such a great way that eating all of it is definitely accessible. Even for the more timid diner, I think they're going to be timid until they take that first bite. All right, that was fun. Service time.
You think about the mackerel toast, which is a super simple dish, just bread, fish, guindilla pepper, salt, olive oil. That's something that takes us 5 days to create. Starts with Shane bringing us the fresh fish. We process it, we cure it, we smoke it, we then marinate it, and then 5 days later it can make it to the plate. The bread starts 3 days before it can make it to the plate with the initial sourdough ferment. Sounds simple, and it's not. Sometimes I think people even think we're opening a can.
And that's basically it. The dish, fresh country bread, our mackerel. It's been cured, smoked, a couple guindilla peppers, extra virgin olive oil, a little crunchy sea salt, and a lemon.
The idea for Mabel's, we wanted to create a neighborhood space. We wanted to create really good food in this place I've lived in for 15 years. We wanted to pay homage to a certain style of dining culture that you can find in Spain and Portugal, where you can get a small snack and a drink or a full meal, and you can take your time, or you can be fast about it. You can sit outside, you can be a part of your neighborhood. I think San Diego is seeing a renaissance for sure of homegrown. We very recently got a direct-to-market fisherman's market in San Diego, only like 3 years ago. One thing I think is really cool is there's lots of us that grew up here that are now able to put themselves into a business and have come back from other markets to open restaurants here.